Before I begin my officially prepared remarks, there were some questions posed to you specifically about debt. And there seemed to be a concern about the mounting debt. And I am going out on a limb, and I am going to ask you if you are aware of how much debt we added under the Trump administration, out of curiosity. If you don't know, I know off the top of my head, but something tells me you may know.
I have an imprecise number. I bet you have the precise number in front of you, so I don't want to give you the imprecise number if you have the precise.
No. Give me the imprecise.
No, please.
Well, I'm going off of my head, because that wasn't part of what I was supposed to say. But long story short, $8 trillion was added under the Trump administration. And so I think that it is important that we focus on making sure that we're keeping our debt under control, but I think it's also important that we're honest about how that debt is accrued and make sure that we don't continue to make the same mistakes. I know that the election was brought up, and there are those that are standing by their man, but they also seem to be concerned about debt, which seems like the two don't go together, because we know that their man actually is really good at running up the credit card debt for this country, because he likes to give tax breaks to his very rich friends, which means that we don't get as much money coming through the door when they are not required to pay their fair share. So I just wanted to make sure that we put that out there first and foremost. I recently was appointed to the weaponization subcommittee. And so I'm going to have plenty of long days ahead of me, kind of like what I have here on oversight. But the point of the weaponization committee was to have a conversation about the government being weaponized in a way so that people could somehow get some personal gain, because there's this theory that this administration has somehow weaponized the government. There is not this acknowledgement that the other guy just is a criminal, because that's just too hard to believe, even though he currently is sitting in New York facing criminal charges that were not brought by the federal government, but instead by state government. Nevertheless, so when I think about weaponization, I honestly can only think about Trump and his administration and all the work that he did to harm federal employees. So to be clear, Trump's 2020 executive order would have effectively gutted civil service job protections for workers across the federal government. Trump would have created politically charged firings of potentially thousands of federal workers and made these public servants subject to the whims of a political dictator and his posse rather than the adherence of the tenets of our Constitution. So let's be clear. Individuals pursuing public service do so largely because of their belief in government. I'm sure you can make a lot more money if you just decided to go elsewhere in private industry. A lot of us could, honestly. But if this rule is implemented, it would destroy the little bit of foundation and structure public servants still have that allowed them to put people over politics. How do I know this? Because Trump and his Republican lackeys stated they felt nonpartisan bureaucrats were hampering Trump's policies, and he wanted to, quote, shatter the deep state. In fact, President Donald Trump's personnel chief, John McEntee, told agency officials at a meeting to implement staffing changes and movements across the government. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record an article from Axios stating that Mr. John McEntee, a 29-year-old at the time, a former body man to Trump, who was fired in 2018 by then Chief of Staff John Kelly, but then rehired and promoted to head the Presidential Personnel Office, directed staff to identify anti-Trumpers and stated that they will no longer get promotions and will be shifted around agencies.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Miller, can you tell us how the implementation of Schedule F would impact the morale and performance of all federal employees?
Thank you, Congresswoman. This is a critical issue and a critical question. In the first week in office, President Biden canceled Schedule F. This is real for OMB. The vast majority of our staff in 2020 was being considered to move to Schedule F. I think this would have a debilitating impact on the basic performance of federal agencies. We already have a system where 3,000 different roles are for political appointees. Those political appointees are in leadership and decision-making roles overseeing their agencies. If we were to go down the path that you outlined, where there were arbitrary or political decisions made instead of decisions made around expertise and experience, it would deeply harm the institutional knowledge in our agencies, but it would also deeply harm our ability to recruit talent going forward into organizations that we want to organize around performance.
Thank you so much for your answer, and I absolutely agree. My mother has worked in I don't know how many federal agencies since I was a little girl in elementary school, and I promise you, we have changed from Democrats to Republicans to MAGA, back to all the things. But I can tell you that she is
Gentlelady's
so
time
very
has expired.
qualified to do her work, and this would be devastating. Thank you so much, and I yield.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nearly 3 million federal employees and 1.3 million private sector contractors hold security clearances that allow them to work with sensitive federal information and data. Each of these individuals underwent comprehensive and extensive background investigations to clear their credentials. Improving personal vetting and onboarding for the most sensitive government positions is key to our national security, especially when the legacy system is about 70 years old. So, Mr. Miller, in your role as chair of the Performance Accountability Council, spearheading the implementation of Trusted Workforce 2.0, can you briefly describe what Trusted Workforce 2.0 is?
Yes, thank you. And Trusted Workforce has been a project across multiple administrations, improving our overall personnel vetting system. It is a relook at how we do suitability and security clearance and a rebuild of the underlying system, standards, and approaches. One of the major changes, which we have implemented now for the entirety of the national security workforce, is to move away from a periodic reinvestigation model to a continuous vetting model. The result of that is that agencies identify potentially problematic information years faster. That's a significant shift. We have a lot of work still to go. We put out a quarterly report on our progress around the Trusted Workforce 2.0 effort, but it's really imperative that we deliver through our overall implementation.
Thank you. I was actually going to touch on the continuous vetting. And, we know in July 2021, not long after it was adopted, we heard about there was a defense counterintelligence and security agency that received an alert that somebody with security clearance was wanted in connection with an attempted murder. That individual was promptly removed, as we know, from security access, but if we had not had continuous vetting, they may have had access for another 5.5 years. While this instance demonstrates the system's potential, can you elaborate on how frequently such alerts have led to actionable intelligence since the program's inception?
I have been in discussions with agencies about their figures. I do not get into the specific personnel matters, but from our agencies, particularly our large agencies, they've seen meaningful increases in the number of alerts that has also required them to redo their business processes so that they can navigate through a different approach.
Roughly how many people in the federal government are still under the periodic review system where changes in their risk, could go unnoticed for about half a decade?
We have moved the national security sensitive workforce entirely into continuous vetting. Our next approach is to do the non-sensitive public trust population into continuous vetting. We're working to do that in the coming months.
Okay, thank you so much. According to GAO, construction of the National Background Investigation Services, the underlying IT system enabling Trusted Workforce 2.0, is several years behind schedule. Despite spending about $500 million on the NBIS system since 2016, DoD has had neither developed a reliable schedule for completion of the project nor a reliable cost estimate for the total project. And unsurprisingly, DoD recently told congressional staff that NBIS is off schedule and over budget again. How exactly will OMB and the Performance Accountability Council get these reforms on track?
Thank you. And this has been an important focus. And late last year, DoD informed me in my role as chair of the PAC that they were now behind on new timelines. They reset their timelines in 2020 per the challenges with the earlier years. In my role as PAC, I directed DoD, ODNI, and OPM to provide responses on specific actions in 30, 60, and 90 days so that we can rebuild our schedule. I'm sure you're aware, DoD briefed staff that they have new leadership in place at DCSA, and this is their top priority. In my position as PAC chair, I plan to hold them accountable.
Do you buy that the new leadership, that the old leadership was the whole source of the problem, or have you identified other sources of the problem there?
Oftentimes within these large transformation efforts, there's inadequate technical talent. That's been a major focus of DoD, not just a leadership change, but bringing in more technical talent into the team to make sure that we're delivering.
Thank you. Reforming our decades-old security vetting system is crucial. We can't allow poor planning and project management to affect our nation's ability to improve security clearance vetting. I look forward to continuing this oversight work with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thanks for watching today's report here on the Lexi Lens, where we bring you the stories that matter without the spin. If you value real reporting, in-depth analysis, and clear facts in a world full of noise, then this is the place for you. So take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel. It's quick, it's free, and it ensures you're always up to date on the biggest headlines, breaking developments, and the deeper context behind the news. Don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more people find our content and tells the algorithm this story is worth seeing. And while you're at it, tap the notification bell so you're the first to know when our next report drops. We post regularly, covering everything from political power moves to behind-the-scenes developments mainstream media often ignores. So if you want sharp reporting with no fluff, you're in the right place. Got something to say? Leave a comment below. We read them, we respond, and your voice is part of this conversation. Thanks again for tuning into the Lexi Lens, where facts come into focus. I'm Lexi, and I'll see you in the next story.